Hello and welcome everyone to the Tech Sharmit podcast. Today I'm here with another special guest who needs no introduction as many of us already recognize her as an IBM Champion Program Director, Libby Ingrassia. Libby is the one who manages the entire IBM Champion program with her dedicated team. She has been instrumental in managing over 1100 plus IBM champions worldwide, and she ensures that each and every IBM champion receives the support they need to thrive in their roles as an external advocate for IBM technology. In fact, Libby oversees the strategic direction of the IBM Champion program, working closely with various business units within IBM to engage these passionate individuals in product development, content creation, and community building. Her leadership ensures that IBM champions are not only recognized for their contributions, but also empowered to amplify their impact across the diverse technology community. So in this episode, we are going to talk about IBM Champion Program and also will try to learn a lot from Libby's expertise. But before we start the discussion, I'd like to thank Libby for joining us today in this podcast. And now I request you to please initiate the discussion by telling us something about yourself.
Hi, Amit. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast today. I'm excited to be here. Um, I have been at IBM for about just under 10 years, not quite 10 years yet. And I've been working with the IBM Champions and the program the whole time I've been here. I live in Texas with my 11-year-old twins and a lot of cats and a lot of books and my very kind spouse. So it's great to be here to talk about the program today.
Yeah, thank you, Libby, for sharing for the introduction. And now we would love to hear more about your journey, like how you started your career with IBM and what steps you took to become the IBM Champion Program Director.
You know, it's interesting. I have a very, I like to call it non-linear career. I've done everything from teach high school, teach college, been a technical editor, run a local magazine. I think, though, there are a couple of threads that have gone through all of the different widely varied phases of the career that have kind of led me to this place. I've always been a writer, an editor, a communicator. I've always cared a lot about educating. And while that's not my primary job leading the program, I do a lot of educating on who and what champions are internally and externally. A community builder, and I think that's what I consider, a primary portion of my job with you all. And when I started with IBM, as I said, nearly 10 years ago, I was working on both the IBM Champions program and a few others. And I think the way that I sort of became the program director is that we've really grown, increased the size of the program and the investment in the program over the years. So when I started at IBM, there were around 200 IBM champions, and we have grown, as you said, to over 1,100. And we have moved into more areas of the company, supporting more champions than we did previously. And as you also said, grown so that there's a team of folks supporting the champions. And I was just lucky enough to be here for the ride and, having the support of the champions and some good ideas to keep moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, I completely agree with you that nowadays, this IBM community is rapidly growing, IBM Champion community. And they are like really doing great work in order to support IBM Champion program. So, Libby, like here, I want to ask you one thing. Like there are many viewers who might not be aware of this program. So, just for them, can you please give an overview of IBM Champion program, like what it all about, and what is our objective for this program?
Abs- Absolutely. So the IBM champions are the top experts and advocates for IBM products and technologies. These are the folks who are out there running user groups, running podcasts, creating content, supporting community, um, building events, and giving feedback, acting as sponsor users. And those folks are nominated once per year for the activities that they've done over the previous 12 months. We evaluate them based on their advocacy and contributions and name a certain number of them champions. There's also a pathway to IBM Champions where they can earn badges, advocacy badges for fewer acts of advocacy. I would say IBM Champions typically have a minimum of 10 big contributions per year that they do consistently, or that, it's just a really big activity. And we recognize them once they're in the program. We reward them, logo gear and digital badges and visibility at our conferences, NDA deep dive briefings, calls and community. And then we also sort of catalyze those folks to continue their advocacy and their contributions, but maybe to make it a little easier for them by giving them some resources and some additional education.
So, Libby, is there any specific criteria for this program? Like, or anyone, let's say if someone is doing their graduation, or if any student is there and he or she is interested in order to contribute for IBM community through through any kind of thing like podcast or anything. So, is there any specific criteria we have that the person should be a professional? There should be a professional person, or any specific criteria is there?
Typically, we look for expertise in one or more IBM products. So
Okay.
an investment in, something DB2, Watson X.AI, SPSS, whatever the product might be.
Mhm.
So the person would show expertise, would show interest. They don't have to be the most expert, right? They don't have to be at the very top of the knowledge, but they have to show their learning process, or that they're in a personal investment in one or more technologies. And then that advocacy or those contributions have to be about those technologies or about IBM more generally. We look at everything from um, you know, sort of people who are doing the work and earlier in their career, all the way up to C-suite, who might be giving more thought leadership rather than, technical content. But we look at everything from code all the way up to that thought leadership.
Okay. And please correct me if I'm wrong. I think this program is for only for those like who are not directly working with the IBM, but they are supporting their products, right?
That's absolutely correct. No IBM employees are in the program. It's
Mhm.
all customers, partners, academics, independent consultants. So everyone that does not work for IBM.
Okay. And now, like we just discussed, there are very this community is growing rapidly. So how do you support this 1100 plus IBM champions worldwide in order to provide them the necessary things and in order to amplify their work? So how you are managing all these things?
Well, I'm so lucky that I don't have to manage it alone. We have program managers who work with each technology area. They may also work as community managers in our IBM Tech Exchange community, or they may work in other roles in the company. But they, one of the many hats that they put on in their day-to-day is to support the champions. We also have a team in our customer advocacy group that's part of the larger IBM Tech Exchange mission. And that team works with me to, as you said, amplify and recruit and support and answer questions. And we're a worldwide team in a couple of different countries. And just, I think though the truth is we just try to pay attention to y'all. Everybody who works with the champions, whether they're directly on the same team I'm on, or whether they're in our larger tech exchange team, we're all very aware of how much champions do to support IBM and to support the products and technologies. So we all try to take a special interest.
Okay. Yeah, I know like it is not that much of easier task. Like it's a bit hectic because you are managing all these things. Even like your team member, you are really putting all your efforts in order to provide the needful to all the advocates and champions. So this is really a commendable job. So thanks for doing all these things for us.
My pleasure.
Okay. Now I would like to ask a bit about the strategies. Like what strategies do you use with IBMers across different business units to bring the right advocate into the program?
So there's a couple of pieces. First of all, repetition about the program. We are always getting new IBMers and,
Yeah.
people shifting around to do different parts of work. So we have to continue to educate the IBMers and show them the contributions that champions make. Then typically we have kind of like a playbook, I guess I'd call it, where we give them different tools so they can come speak on our monthly call. They can contribute something into our monthly newsletter. They can add something to our community. And we give them the list of who the champions are. We make introductions with them to the champions. We offer to gather groups of champions for feedback or other activities. And we just really, I think, try to keep the lines of communication open, both between my team and the teams across IBM, and between the champions and those teams across IBM.
Okay. Okay. Now let's discuss bit about your journey. Like you have received several manager choice recognition award and the people choice culture award. So can you tell us more about these award, like what they mean to you and how you achieve these things?
I'm very grateful to have been recognized by peers, by executives in management. My I learned at my mom and my grandma's feet to just, work your most diligently, try to work smart and hard, I guess, is what they taught me. And so I think that's a lot of it, right? Just doing your very best every day. But I think I've been lucky enough also to build some really great relationships with the champions that have then turned into things that really help IBM. I try to be a good colleague. If someone else needs assistance, if I can help or if the champions can help, I try to bring that to bear. And I try to, I think it's a recognition of both building that community and bringing the visibility to that community, as well as, trying to keep a good attitude and support our teams.
Okay. And like you have significant experience in both writing and editing as well within the tech industry. So how did you get started in this particular field? Like what keeps you passionate about writing as well as the editing for tech industry?
That was actually my first job out of university, was as a writer and tech editor for a group that did not just technology, but also oil and gas and medical and, other. And really, to me, thinking about your audience and figuring out as the audience changes over time, as their interest and expertise is changing over time,
Yes.
what words can I use? What format, whether it's actually writing or whether, like we're doing now, you have to change it up. You have to make it spoken word, you have to make video, you have to, have the right graphics. So I like to just really focus on the audience and what it is that they want and need and how I can help them get it.
Okay. Okay. And maybe that's the reason like you some of your colleague refer you as a smart savvy technology writer and editor. I saw some of your posts of your ex-colleagues and they literally put it over the LinkedIn as well, that yes, Libby is someone who is very good enough in this technical content. So can you share some tips for those like who are also interested in order to move to this writing domain, like how they can develop an engaging and informative writing style?
I think your style comes when you have confidence in your mastery of the material. So, whatever you're going to write about, first learn it really well. And that lets you write in a um, lets you write easily and smoothly once you know the material. Obviously, a lot of people are using Gen AI to
Yes.
generate material now, and I think that's fine, right? But then you have to look at it and say, does it sound like the voice that I want to project here? Whether that is a more formal voice because of, who your audience is, or whether that's a more, again, you said it earlier, I tend to have a more informal and yet still informative. So I try to read it out loud and listen to it. And if it doesn't sound smooth, if it makes me stop, or if a word choice makes me stop, or if I don't understand something, it gets a rewrite until it sounds and reads smoothly.
Okay, so let's say if someone is going to start their career with writing, they can use those AI applications, but it's always better and even recommended that always make sure that this is like the result that you have got from AI application is exactly what which you are planning to deliver to your audience. So that
Yeah,
might help.
absolutely. There should be no use of AI if you couldn't do it yourself. The
Yes,
AI is merely to make it a little, I think, when we talk about Gen AI, make
mhm,
it faster for you to get to the end result,
right.
support you getting to the end result, but you have to be able to do it. Otherwise, you can't even evaluate, did the AI do a good job, right?
Yes,
So
right.
you need to first be trained and work hard at your writing and be able to deliver the writing manually. And then you can begin to take the, shortcuts, if you will. But
Mhm,
I would never share something that an AI had written as my own without
okay.
thorough editing and, frankly, transparency. That's an IBM tenet of Gen AI use is full transparency, but it's also a personal one. If I
Yeah.
use AI like to write a blog or something, I would always include, I used WatsonX.ai to, create some of this content, for example.
Okay. Okay. And Libby, like in your early days, you led your college magazine team through a significant redesign and relaunch process. So, which also earned a national award. So, can you share what inspired the redesign and the challenges you might have faced during that process, and how it felt to achieve such a prestigious award on a national level?
So this was as a professional, right? I was already in my working life, although it was for the university that I went to,
Okay.
Honors College at the University of Houston. And the newsletter was the same when I went to work there as it had been when I had been in university myself, or an early alumna. And so I really wanted to give it a fresh look and feel and get a little deeper into some of the content because the university, the college was doing so many amazing things. And
Hmm.
sometimes we don't see how amazing something is by just looking at the words. We have to look at everything that is around it. It has to be presented in a way that will support reading it or absorbing it. And so I really wanted also to work with some of the amazing colleagues I had at that time with their talents and with some of the amazing students who were there at that time to get them to write and contribute so we could really feel like we were experiencing some of these things through their voices.
Okay. And like while working as a director of communication at that same honors college, you have successfully increased the college visibility as well in the community and secured like multiple first time media appearances. So what strategies did you use there in order to generate this publicity? for the
A
college?
lot of it was that same thing that I talked about before, community building.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a good network of the people who can raise the visibility of others or, raise their eminence, that helps because it gives you the opportunity to come back to them over and over again with a new story or a new idea.
Yeah.
But I think the other piece is, and again, it's something that I've already mentioned, knowing your audience and
Mm-hmm.
knowing your material. So if I knew really well what was going on in the honors college, I had the opportunity to think about, well, what kinds of people would be interested in hearing about this? And then once I had an audience in mind, I could go out to various, news or university level places and say, hey, did you know this was happening? Really? And then that relationship, just kind of let us build on the materials further.
Okay, so there should be proper sync between your audience and the content that you have prepared. Otherwise, it might create some gap.
Yeah, it when you know the people, you know the audience, and you know the content, the material, then it
Mm-hmm.
makes it easy to talk about it in a smart way, in a way that lets you think about all the different audiences that might be interested.
Okay. Libby, here I would like to ask one question, which is related to mentorship. So, whom you consider as your mentor, and what all skills that you have particularly inherited from your mentors? So,
I'm lucky enough to have had quite a few mentors over the years, both very, formally and informally.
okay.
Um, my One of my previous managers, who is our chief community officer,
Okay.
Marius Chorta, is one of my mentors. He's run programs like the Champions at previous jobs, and he has really good way of thinking about the big picture and giving me ideas to think about. And he's also always really willing to argue with me and let me argue a point and then give me some ideas. And then, we kind of can come to a middle place. I also have, I would actually say one of my colleagues in the program, she probably doesn't even know she's mentoring me. But my colleague, Catherine, has a lot of coaching expertise. It's what her sort of avocation, her other side. And so she gives me a lot of, again, just different ways of thinking about things. And
Mm-hmm.
that helps a lot. Um, I sort of think that we can have formal mentoring relationships, but if we look at almost everyone we come across as a potential someone to learn something from, that
Yes.
everybody becomes our mentors to to a certain extent. All my champions, I feel like whenever I interact with them, they teach me something, whether it's about a product or about the company or about what the champions need or just about people in general, people out in the world, in different places than I am. I learn something from you all every day. So I look at you all. I have 1,100 mentors.
Yeah, because everyone has something new to share, and we all are learning from each other. So, yeah, I completely agree here. And
Yeah.
like, uh, what is your opinion about the challenges? Because this is one of the question that I always ask with my guests. Because there are some people who are struggling with challenges, right? So, how you deal with your obstacle? Let's say if you are working on something, maybe professionally or anything, but the moment when you are facing challenges there, so what is your mindset at that time? Like, how you deal with such obstacles?
Uh, So it's all about authenticity, right? So I'll let you all in a little bit. Sometimes I want to just go curl up on the couch with a book and read and take my mind off the obstacle for a while,
Okay.
when I'm feeling overwhelmed. Um, but once I'm not overwhelmed anymore, once I can get past it, I, if possible, try to educate myself more on whatever's causing the obstacle, whether it's a process or a tool or a people who don't understand or a new strategy. Um, like probably a lot of us who are maybe a little older than you and some of our listeners, I read Who Moved My Cheese many years ago, which is a book about change and how we can adapt to and adopt the right strategies around change. And when I need to, frankly, I have to go back to that book and say, okay, I don't want to change to
Yeah.
surmount this obstacle. But if I don't change, we won't surmount this obstacle. So then I try to get a good attitude about it and find whoever I need to help me. And then usually we can get around it or above it or below it or do something different to get past it.
Yeah, so these are some good tips that anyone can adopt in order to solve their problem. Like reading is something, yes, that can help in order because once you keep your mind distracted from that particular issue, then it might also provide you some solution and then you can work on it. So that's a great tip. Okay, so Libby, like we have various things to discuss, maybe related to IBM Champion program and your professional experiences. But just because of the limitation of time, I would like to ask my last question. Like, what are your future goals and aspirations, and what we can expect to see from you in the coming years?
Hmm. It's hard to ever want to leave a program like the IBM Champions because I get so much joy out of working with all the people and IBM, my team at IBM. So I think at least short term, you can see me stick around for with the IBM Champions. Hopefully we will add more to the program, more programs around it, and I hope to continue to lead those as we move forward. I think there may be some more books out in my future, writing as well as reading.
Yeah.
Um, it's been a while since I wrote a book, but there are a few in my head trying to claw their way out. So I think that might be what's next.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Libby, for joining us in this podcast and for sharing all these information with us. So thank you once again.
Thanks for having me.